Yo, what's going on, guys? And a little quick update. Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody. We've said this before. They're not going to be traded unless, I guess, unless something insane happens. But Mike Dunleavy and the Golden State Warriors owner Joe Lacob, just the whole franchise, everyone seems to be on the same page. Big fans seems to be. They're fans of both of the players, and what we're hearing specifically is that the report is saying that don't expect them to be traded anytime soon, as even if negotiations for a star player, specifically what they're saying, which is kind of a little curtailing what we had heard before, that we thought, maybe they would be, but it seems like they won't be used to facilitate a trade for a superstar, as Mike Dunleavy is high on both of them. And even though the team is slumping, it seems like they believe the future of the Warriors have an iteration that features both Kuminga and Moody. I mean, those are all the right things to be floating around if you're the Golden State Warriors, and or at least if you're a fan of the Warriors, you want to be hopeful that Mr. Kuminga and Moses Moody will be here for the long haul. Now, what do I think is going to be? Is that a smart, or do I think you should trade maybe one of them, unless you guys are all bought into this being the end of the Warriors being the Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, and you want to usher in the new generation. I think personally you should still think about going out and potentially getting yourself a guy who can be the second. Like, I don't think Pascal, I guess, is a good theory. DeJounte Murray is more maybe the better fit, one could argue. I just don't know at this point, if you look at how the current makeup of the league, if it's in their best interest to go after a superstar and just get rid of all their young talent. Because for me, I think that the Golden State Warriors, they might have just plateaued, and at this point, maybe it's better to keep your assets and sign and trade Klay. I don't know. I do have fear we're seeing a version of the Warriors that isn't as good. But like, if you think the window is worthy of going after, so yeah, I think it's definitely interesting when you look at all of this, how it's going to play out, because it's hard. I think they're plateaued with the current roster that they have. I think it's in their best interest to go after somebody. Now, I think it's better if they go after multiple players instead of using their capital for one fish. So that's why I don't think Pascal's the right guy. I think if you go after DeJounte Murray, you're still able to be cap flexible if you do the deals right, to go after a couple other players who could actually help you win. Maybe get a Jason Tate. Maybe go out and get, if you brought in DeJounte Murray, a Daniel Gafford. Okay, maybe you could walk away with the deadline having not only DeJounte Murray and Daniel Gafford and a wing that you could have brought in. So now you flipped Chris Paul and Moody, okay, and you kept Kuminga, or vice versa, or Andrew Wiggins and somebody, and you were able to get 2 or 3 players back instead of going for just the big fish Pascal Siakam, Zach LaVine, because it seems to be the right thing. I could be wrong on that, but that's just my 2 cents on the whole thing. I want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section. What would you guys do if you're the Golden State Warriors? I think it's definitely an interesting situation to think about. The rest of the video is what we reported in the past. The Warriors are unwilling to trade Jonathan Kuminga. They see him as a potential all-star at the very least. Now, the Warriors loathe the idea of potentially trading Jonathan Kuminga. Sources tell Michael Grange of Sportsnet. We've also heard this from, from The Athletic. The admission comes even after the reports that Jonathan Kuminga has lost faith in playing for Steve Kerr. Kuminga has a close relationship with the owner of the Warriors, Joe Lacob, with Grange describing any potential trade as a virtually no-go. Jonathan Kuminga is averaging 13 points and 4.5 rebounds this season. More specifically, Jonathan Kuminga this year as a starter for the Dubs. I'm pulling up the stats right here. Starter this season. I thought I had them ready, but I didn't. But Kuminga this season as a starter is averaging 15 points, 5.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists in 13 games. And he's been basically a starter over the last few games. And they're going to an Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga starting lineup as of late. So it's definitely interesting to see that ownership is kind of like telling Steve Kerr, maybe even Mike Dunleavy, Jonathan Kuminga is my guy forever, here and now. My eyes itchy. But what are your guys' thoughts? Would you guys trade Jonathan Kuminga? So last offseason, we heard that they were offering, what was it, the pick that they ended up drafting Brandon Beepod with. They were offering that pick with Jonathan Kuminga to the Pistons. So it's definitely interesting to see that, potentially, they had already started or wanted to trade him in the past, and they ended up not going through with it. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comments section, and here's the rest of the reporting on this that we know about Jonathan Kuminga.